On the program, the government says wait, 2026 is when the economy will boost, but until then, it's all Labor's fault. It's confusing, isn't it? 2025, this year, was meant to boom, but it's been more like bust. Unemployment spiking, especially in Auckland. Tonight, I'll show you what's happening. I'll show you how many times in 15 minutes that National blames Labor for all this. And I'll reveal how dire it is and show you why 2026 is expected to go off with a sonic boom. There's not long to wait. I'll make sense. Well, hopefully I'll make sense. Let's go.
Are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? Should you really lose your career for refusing to take part in a 90-minute lesson about Māori culture? This government doesn't actually have any idea how to get economic growth. Show us what you made of, Prime Minister.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan, Garner.
Okay, welcome to the program. You're with Editor-in-Chief. Good evening, everyone. I'm Duncan, Garner. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming along. And please subscribe. It helps us stay around for a bit longer. I truly appreciate that. I just found out my mother's yet to subscribe because she doesn't know how to. 2.5 years in the podcast fight. And I thought I had her on my side, but no, she's still yet to subscribe. Anyway, a subscriber waits, I suppose. The economy tonight, unemployment's up. National says that's because it's the last thing that corrects itself as it continues to fix the last bits of Labor's heinous reign in office, it says. But the bounce is real close, says Nicola Willis, the Finance Minister. National will need her to be right. If it's wrong, it's going to be hard to convince voters that National's plan is working. Tonight, I'll show you what's really going on in the economy, and I'll show you why the current mess might correct itself really quickly next year, early next year. And I'll also look at why so many people are looking for work. And who are they? And what sort of work are they going to get? And how many people are going for this one job? So let's go.
It's the Slam Dunk.
Okay, this is not where National wants the economy to be. This is not what it planned. This is not where it wants to be at all. This is certainly not what it promised. Yet almost 2 years in, and for the second time in 11 days, National has been forced to defend its record in the face of more bad economic news. And here's the bit Christopher Luxon can't escape. Unemployment has risen to 5.2%. That's the highest it's been in 5 years. Another 16,000 New Zealanders have lost their jobs over the past 12 months and signed up to welfare. So they rolled out Finance Minister Nicola Willis, who wasted no time blaming Labor for the current high rates of joblessness.
We have gone through, as every New Zealander knows and has felt, a really difficult period in our economic history, where we had a soaring inflation rate, very high interest rates. And what economists will tell you is that whenever you go through a really difficult period, the last thing to correct is unemployment. So what we're experiencing is the aftershocks of what was a very difficult period. And I do note that this is a high rate of unemployment compared to most recent years. But if you look back over the data series for unemployment, we're still below the long-run average. And New Zealanders will remember times in our history where unemployment was a lot higher than this. I do not wish for that at all. I do want to see this number come down. But I think what we need to see is that when this number comes down, that will be New Zealand closing the chapter on what has been a period of very poor economic management and a period that our government is very keen to put behind us.
I counted at least 7 times over about 15 minutes where Willis blamed the previous government for the current unemployment numbers. Not once did she accept that her government, after almost 2 years in office, could be responsible at all. This is not their fault, this is all Labor. Indeed, this government has doubled down on its economic plan, and they say, be patient, folks. It's slowly working. We're now being told 2026 is when things will bounce.
What we're seeing in this data is signs that things are turning.
So the message is be patient. Unemployment is the last thing to correct itself, and next year will be much, much better. Do you believe them? I mean, for now, National keeps saying that Labor's mess caused all this. But for how long can you keep blaming the previous administration? I mean, Labor did. National's 9 long years in office. That went for years. But what about now? National, on one hand, has told us it's got inflation and interest rates under control, but now they're saying, well, until those factors come really under control, the bad economic news might just keep coming. So watch next year. That's the good bit now. So they've pushed this year into next year. So you've got to be a little bit more patient. It's asking a lot from voters. Patience, patience, patience. It's killing us. Auckland in particular is really struggling despite it being the place where the immigrants landed and built their lives. The rate of unemployment is way worse in Auckland now compared to the nationwide rate. So it's gone over 6%, 6.1% unemployed in Auckland, where it's not been for years. In 1 year, Auckland's jobs numbers have gone from 4.6 to 6.1%. Young people aren't getting jobs. And the stats show that they're increasingly signing up to study because that's all there is. National never promised such a job slump in the country's biggest city. They never said that things would get this bad. Now it's saying wait a bit longer for the good times. They're not far off. What do you believe?
I just say to those people that that is an incredibly tough experience, that they shouldn't take it personally, because what they are often the victims of is an economy that was mismanaged, where inflation and interest rates were out of control and where many businesses have retrenched, and that has led them to shed jobs. I know for those New Zealanders, the message they need to hear is this is going to be better in future. There is hope on the horizon. There will be more job opportunities in this country. We're forecasting 240,000 jobs will be created over the next 4 years. So for those New Zealanders, look ahead. There are better times ahead, and the data keeps confirming the story we've been telling you, which is when we get the fundamentals under control, good things flow for families.
Remember, National started the year saying with the cost of living under control now and inflation back in its box and economic growth would really kick in. They really wanted economic growth this year. Certainly that's what Luxon was hoping for. But where's the kick, Christopher? This government says it's fast-tracking infrastructure projects. The $6 billion worth of projects will begin by Christmas. Shane Jones is talking about on and offshore mining opportunities. But despite all this talk, and that's really what it is so far, the numbers don't lie. This government's management of the economy is under serious question. 500,000 New Zealanders rely on food parcels every week to get by. Our homelessness rates have gone through the roof again. And this government continues to argue that there's nothing more it can do. And Labor got us into this mess. So they've got all the right things going on, says National, but it's Labor's mess that was so big that it's taking time to fix and to turn the ship around. But it takes time, says National. Willis didn't offer fresh solutions from her media conference or indicate a change of plan. Instead, she's doubled down, saying this continued struggle is not because of National. It's because Labor left the place in a real mess, and the clean-up job just takes time, so be patient, please.
There was classic Labor talk and no money committed, and what we have ensured is that more state houses have continued to be built under our government, many more state houses, and those building projects continue to occur across the country. We delivered more classrooms last year than Labor did in their last year of office. We've kicked off $1 billion worth of rebuilding of hospitals that were projects that had been long stalled under the last government. We've actually had to rebuild the entire pipeline of roading projects in this country, many of which were cancelled for ideological reasons by a government that was more interested in cycleways and a green agenda. And we've said no, we're going to get those roads of national significance built. And yes, it does take time to get them designed, to get them consented, to get them underway.
But for how much longer can they blame Labor? After almost 2 years in office, National to me looks increasingly like a broken record. Willis appears like a one-trick pony, like a parrot blaming the other one. Oh, their plan, it's their problem. And National's plan is suffering from sort of glacial progress. And if things are on the turn, then it's more turn than progress. Personally, across a number of sectors and from the people I've been speaking to, the economy has hit a midwinter iceberg. And we as a country have come to a halt. The only reason we're not entirely sinking is because we weren't going fast enough when we hit the iceberg to cause any damage. This week I've spoken to people in the banking industry who say the impact of the high dairy prices is yet to flow through into the towns around the country, and the early signs are showing that farmers and others with decent incomes are choosing to pay down farm debt and business debt, personal debt, which means that Main Street and back streets don't see the cash. The banking industry says it expects that to continue. My banking source says that money has not come anywhere near Queen Street or had an impact on the country's biggest city just yet. And it may be some time, if at all. I've also been close to the real estate industry, and the honest agents are telling me the market's stalled. Auctions are being passed in and people don't have the money or confidence to get into the market. It's really quite dire. At one auction I attended this week, half the crowd was made up of staff from within the agency, real estate agency, to give the auction rooms some resemblance of life. Only one group appeared interested and they were taken away to negotiate. I'm told that is still going on. When the housing market is dead, then the economy goes on life support straight away. It all happens like that. And it doesn't sort of feel a bit like that right now. I wonder how much of an impact the mass exodus to Australia is having on the numbers of people now not showing up to the open homes and the auctions. We simply can't lose tens of thousands of affluent, hard-working Kiwis without some kind of impact down the track. And maybe we're now seeing the reality of that. That they're just not around, not in the shops, not in the auction rooms, not anywhere. What sort of people are now left in the country? The ones who have little ability to get involved in some of these deals, real estate, housing, that sort of thing? They work hard, but they're just on low pay and they live week to week. Maybe is that all that's left? Truth is, if we don't create wealth and spread wealth, and if we don't keep those people in New Zealand, then you can have all the fancy houses in the world for sale, but if there's no one in the country that can afford them, then it's a waste of space. We have a problem. So how's 2025 been after some early signs of kick? Well, after early signs of kick, we now appear to be dragging the leg. The government's tax cuts have been and gone, and if they have had an impact on us, then please show me where. And the government's big budget push to incentivise growth by giving businesses a generous rebate for investing heavily in plant and the capital and things like that in their business, it hasn't worked. It doesn't appear to have any impact. This benefit to business was uncapped, yet few businesses appear to have stepped forward to invest. Trump's trade debacle and tariffs continue to shock and surprise nations all over the world, including us, and businesses who froze all the investment decisions as a result appear to still be like possums in the headlights. And they're keeping their powder dry, which of course is doing nothing for general confidence. If business stops spending, then little wonder the economy's hit the ground, with a thump. Dead cats don't bounce. I said Luxon had a year to convince people that he and his program and government were right for the country. He still has time, but at the same time, he's fast running out of runway to make something happen. His leadership and his economic plan is pretty unconvincing, based on today's numbers, and that's even if I'm being pretty generous. Perhaps the biggest thing in his favour is not so much his own plan working, but perhaps the greatest strength for him is that for Labour to govern, they would need the big spending Greens and the temperamental and largely unpalatable, angry and separatist agenda of Te Pāti Māori. But increasingly, Luxon and co may have more luck praying the economy turns the corner, because everything else they try doesn't seem to have much impact. Sure, it's frustrating. Maybe Jonky was right. Just cut the interest rates further. I mean, it's not like anyone else appears to know what else to do or when to do something. Nothing. I mean, when they do something, nothing changes. National promised an unrelenting war on the cost of living and then an all-out assault on economic growth, where we would all see things pick up in 2025. Hasn't happened. Trump somewhat ruined the party, I get that, but if this is National delivering on its promises, and if this is the good times, then Luxon and co overpromised, and they're now seriously under-delivering, aren't they? We got work to do, but watch 2026. The boom times are coming, apparently.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, so the jobs market, we spoke about a lot just then. 200 people, 2,000 people going for one job at New World recently. 2,000 people going for one job. Young people struggling to get work, so they're lining up to study again. So what's it like for older New Zealanders? How do they get work? Increasingly, older Kiwis have to work. There's no doubt about that. But the tight economy impacts the old folk even harder. Ian Fraser is with Seniors at Work, and he's with us now. Ian, g'day, mate. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
And so we've talked over the years about the increasing sort of push for older people to go back to work because they need to go back to work because they need to earn a few dollars still, and they're not quite ready for retirement. What's the demand like now? Unemployment's up, of course. Young people are looking for work. Older people are looking for work. What are your books looking like?
Yeah, look, no two ways. It's a real struggle for people over 50 in finding work, and certainly, the last 2 years have been tough, and I don't think there's been any great improvement. And in the last, say, 6 to 9 months, we've had a lot more people getting in touch with me, asking for advice, assistance, and so on, because they're really struggling.
Yeah.
And I guess a statistic to illustrate that, we used to get about 30 to 50 people register as job seekers on our site every week. In the last 6 months, it's gone from 50 to 100 a week registering. And I was fortunate enough to get a little bit of media focus a couple of weeks ago, and I had over 600 people register in 3 days. So I think that answers your question.
Okay, so how many people have you got registered now on your site?
Over 7,500.
And so they are all current people looking for work?
They're all current people looking for work, yes.
Wow. And how many jobs? Do you have any jobs available on the site? Do you have? Of course, you have links with everyone, but how many jobs are going?
We've got between 80 and 90 at the moment. So we're not big, but our jobs are totally for people in their 50s and over. And I'm really lucky. I've got 7 or 8 larger employers who list a lot of jobs with us, and they've taken out 12-month subscriptions. So any job that's listed with Seniors at Work, a job seeker can know that it's listed by an employer who wants to welcome and encourage them. So the old naughty words of ageism, bias, and discrimination, they're well and truly out of the window with those employers.
Yeah, they are.
And it's great to have them on board.
Yeah, and they should be out the window. So you've got almost 700 people per job. So it's almost like you've got 800 applicants per job. If you look at those numbers, if I do my stats right with what's on site, that's that mirrors society.
You're still good at numbers, aren't you?
Yeah, not bad. I'm good at some numbers. Nothing too complicated, but those numbers there at 700-800 per job. That's mirroring what society's doing right now. There's a New World job recently. 2,000 people went for it. There's 100 jobs going on Point Chef at the New World, and there are 3,000 people registered for them. So that's got really tough.
Oh, it's got really tough, and as I said, in the last 2 years, employers aren't listing as much. And if they are listing, they get so many people applying for those jobs through their own careers board.
Yeah. And so if you're over, I mean, I'm now a senior at work probably, I better not say that too loud, but I'm 51.
Are you over? No, you're 51.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the club. Over 50. Over 50 is theoretically a senior now.
I thought it might have been
True
60.
story.
You know, I was hoping when I came here today to talk to you, I thought, I wonder what senior is. I'm sure I was senior 60, but I've seen on your site, you know, you talk about seniors at 50, and I'm thinking, God, I don't even feel senior. I still feel as immature as I've ever been sometimes. So why are seniors, what sort of benefit are they to an employer compared to, say, a younger person? Not that you want to set up a competition, but why are old people, senior people, good for the workplace?
I think it goes without saying there's a lot of pluses that older people bring to the workplace. We all know of the likes of, they've built up a lot of skill and experience over 20, 30, 40 years plus, their common sense and their mentoring skills. So, you know, if an employer is prepared to invest in retaining them and retraining them, they're going to reap big dividends. There's no two ways about that. And if an employer can be flexible and allow an older person to transition gracefully, if that's the right word, into part-time work or casual work, kudos to that employer.
Do we think, though, that the 35-year-old hiring the people in the company, do you think they look at the seniors and think, you know more than me? You'll want big money. I'm not prepared to pay you that. Plus, I don't want you to show me up. Is there any of that sort of thing going on?
Well, you're asking a tough question now, aren't you? I think there is still a little bit of that. And to be fair, not all mature people are necessarily seeking big bucks. You know, they, as we said before, that they need to work, and they're prepared to work for a fair salary. So, you know, there are some recruiters out there that would still look differently at an older person, and that's sad.
Yeah, and it might be that the senior person doesn't want that responsibility, doesn't want the big salary and responsibility anymore. They've had that all their life, and they're just happy to be the cog in the wheel at this workplace, getting enough money to supplement their super and whatever other savings they have. And see, that's how I see it. The older I get, the less responsibility I want, and but I do enjoy working, and I think I'll always be like that. But I don't want to be the big guy.
Yeah.
I just want to do what I do, and so as long as that's don't become a slave. You know, you're doing it for $1 an hour or something. Then there are some rules, but you're doing it with dignity, some dignity in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree with you.
Yeah, and so employers have been good in coming forward to offer jobs. What sort of jobs are they offering? What sort of stuff you got on your site?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a big range of jobs. I guess the only ones that aren't listed are like a builder, for example. But if there's too much heavy lifting. But New Zealand Post are one of our regular supporters, and a lot of their jobs require 20 to 25 kg, and we get a lot of applicants for them. And the other end of the scale, I guess you're not going to get a CEO or a CFO or a COO being listed on our site, but kind of everything in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, customer service roles are arguably the most sought after and the most listed, but there is a big range of jobs that are listed on our site, and we are now getting more white collar jobs as well. So the likes of Westpac, and they're putting some pretty high profile jobs on the site as well, which is cool.
Yeah, that's great. Have you noticed though that you're getting fewer jobs compared to when the times were good, because we're in such tight and difficult economic times, and investment seems to have gone on hold, right around these businesses because of all sorts of reasons, Trump and so forth. Do you find you've got there's fewer jobs on offer?
Our number of jobs is up on where it was, say, 2 years ago. The difference is that we don't, until recently, we haven't had the range of listings. So the 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 employers have contributed, let's say, 80% of the jobs that are listed, whereas before it might be 50%. So the range isn't there. But in the last 4 or 5 weeks, I've started to get more of the smaller companies again who have either discovered us or or heard me being interviewed or whatever the case may be. And that's nice. It's nice to get those smaller ones as well.
I bet. And what about some of the testimonials that you get? Do you hear from employers who say, "Oh my God, thank you so much for I employed Dave the other day and he's on board and it's changed our little company"? Or do you hear from people who have used your site to get a job? Do they say, "Ian, wonderful, I finally landed a job and I love it"? Do you get a lot of the testimonial?
Yeah, not so much from the employers. And to be fair, I guess once an application is made, I lose track of that.
Yeah.
But I guess the endorsement comes from those employers using us again and again and again. Certainly from job seekers, yes, get a lot of thanks and gratitude, either for assistance or when they actually get a job, which is really nice, nice to hear.
And there might be a bit of a feeling that maybe because the world's so digital now that the seniors aren't so good at navigating digital. But I don't know. Digital's been around a little while now, and I tend to think that there's some seniors who might be pretty good actually at navigating their way around digital services and things. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I think that's a myth, or partly a myth. I think there are some older people who are not super tech savvy.
Sure.
I acknowledge that. But if you think about it, people of my age, and I'm 73, I've gone through an awful lot of tech changes in the last 50 years. So you learn, maybe slowly but surely, to adapt and understand them. And I say to employers, and I say to job seekers, if you get an opportunity to be retrained in tech, for goodness sake, take it.
Yeah.
And to an employer, please invest. If you've got someone who's really good, but they might not be super savvy at this or that, invest in it, in retraining.
I look at my mum who's 78 and sharp and onto it, and has been involved in sales, optics and things like that before. I'd employ her in a heartbeat. She is old school. She's a hard worker. She's polite. She's respectful. She'll give plenty. She's got charisma, and she'll invite people into the shop, and she'll sell more than she's ever going to buy in the first place. And I look at young people. I'm not running off young people here, but I look at young people and I think they're on their phones. They'd rather go, "Dad, give me $50 rather than work." And I'm just thinking, there's so much in it for employers to actually take their plunge and have a go. Don't get rid of your biases and your thoughts. That it might be negative.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've got I think it's quite a cool story. There's a company called Mart. You might have heard of it. They've got a whole lot of secondhand clothing stores. And they've got another brand called Dunnan's Rag Company. And these guys have been going since the mid-60s. The owner is in his mid-80s. And they've just started listing from Whangarei through to Invercargill, looking for what they call sales representatives nationwide. But it's not a sales job. They get paid an hourly rate, and they're just knocking on business doors and asking them, "Do you use rags?" And most businesses use rags of some sort. And then they just ask the question, "What are you paying for your rags?" So they go back to the head office and they pass it on. And Tom, the head guy, does a deal with that company. And they are looking, as I say, for sales reps. The age of they're looking at retirees.
Yeah.
And their current salespeople are aged between 64 and 80. And it's a fantastic job. And there's a company that really wants to have people in this demographic. It's a lovely story.
From rags to riches.
Exactly. Yeah,
that's a great little story.
Duncan. You always do that.
I always come up with a headline. Yeah, nothing behind it, but just a great headline. Hey, but that's that is a great story, and that's what I mean. If you like, you've been wonderful on the service you've set up because it allows people to communicate. When you can communicate, you can solve the world's problems. If you don't communicate, no one's meeting in the middle to come up with a solution. So I think it's been wonderful. Can you believe the growth of your service?
Yeah, look, it's hard, and I've got to make that decision. I mean, how long do I keep going? How long am I able to keep going? And I always said I'd work till I'm 75, but this is a hard one to let go.
Yeah.
Because if I stopped and got someone else to do it, you feel as though you're letting people down, and it's a very positive and a humbling thing that I do.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of positivity out of it. Yeah.
I agree, and it keeps you alive in many ways because it's a legacy as well. You're helping people, and the best thing you can do, I reckon, is you get such a good feeling out of helping people. There's nothing better than that feeling of I've actually made a difference to someone here, and you don't need accolades for it. That's for other people to say, but you just do it. And I wonder. I wonder why so many older or senior people need to go back to work. And this is I'm looking for some advice from you here. Is it because we haven't taken saving seriously, or is it because the world has become so much more expensive, or people find themselves with shocks later in life? Because 65 is actually quite young to retire. There's actually a bit of juice in the legs left after that, so people can work. And they want to work it. Is it because they've been caught short? Is it because they haven't saved enough? Is it because they've had a shock at how expensive retirement really is?
Yeah, that's a very, very, very good question, and a lot of questions in that. I don't think my demographic saved like, say, our kids. We've got 2 kids, late 20s, early 30s. They've invested in KiwiSaver from the outset, and by the time they're my age, they will have millions, I would think, and they're putting a lot of their money into that. So a lot of older people haven't saved sufficiently, and it's simple. The cost of living is tough, and they need to put food on the table, and they still have mortgages to pay, a lot of them, and their health costs. As you get older, your health costs go up, and so you put all that together, and it makes it hard. So there are a lot who can work, but need to work.
Yeah.
I mean, we have an aging workforce. We can't get away from that. Nothing's going to change with that, is it? Yeah,
it's good advice, and I'm going to leave it there because it's great advice that save early. The Australians have got this right. We are behind the 8 ball. We could go on forever about super and how to pay and everything, but the best place to start saving is yesterday.
Correct. 100%.
And KiwiSaver at least has given us a vehicle to do that, so I think that's wonderful. Ian, nice to see you, mate. We'll do it again at another stage, but I appreciate your availability and what you do, mate.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Nice to see you again.
Okay. Cheers.
Take care.
Stella, you too. Bye-bye.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, Ian Fraser from Seniors at Work, who's a good guy. Does a great job as well. Time for letters. To the editor, one here today. Duncan, love your podcast. Editor-in-Chief podcast. Brilliant. We don't watch news on TV anymore. I miss your morning breakfast show. The news is biased, liberal, and you never hear the truth. I've watched you and Erica Stanford on the education conversation. I'm over the moon with her decision to replace the NCA crap. This NCA system is a disaster. Kids don't know how to study. They don't know what an exam is, except for the last 2 or 3 years in school. They don't know what you failed is because you're not allowed to hurt their feelings. It's ridiculous. My grandson struggled with maths since primary. He's now year 13. When he started college, Nana decided to send him for an extra maths exams lessons after school. I paid for his 1 hour per week maths tutoring because I knew his parents are working hard and that will only put an extra burden on their shoulders. After listening to you and Erica, I went and added up all my receipts. It added up to $9,271. Okay, people will say, but that's for 5 years. But why do we have to spend that kind of extra money out of school to get tutoring? I did not know what I spent, and we spent a lot. I'm actually angry at the schools in the system, but I love my grandson and I did it for him. Keep up the good work, Duncan. Kind regards, Ingrid. That's in private school fees. $10,000 by a couple of terms somewhere. But where's the accountability? If you send your kid to school, then you have to send them to tutoring as well. Why couldn't the teacher sort that out? How come 5 years of different teachers in one school can't sort out that kid's maths problems? Why does it take to go to extra tutoring? Good on you for doing that, Ingrid, but I'm with you. Why do we pass kids who are failing? Why do we send them to the next year when they're failing? Why don't we work on them? Why don't we give a shit in these schools? I think we've got a problem. Anyway, that's us. Thanks for your feedback, folks, and your support. Get in touch through social media, Duncan Garner Podcast, TikTok, Instagram, flick us an email, Duncan@RoverNZ to my team. Thanks, guys. Huge team now. Thanks, we'll do it again tomorrow. And remember, life's no dress rehearsal, no curtain raiser. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth, so get out and enjoy it. Have a great rest of the day, folks. Look after yourselves. Good evening to you. Take care.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.